Well, aloha. My name is Kevin. I am the Vice President of the Hawaii Parkinson Association and former past president. I want to say aloha and welcome to our annual symposium. Today is also World Parkinson's Day. This day is it's an international awareness day held every April 11th to honor the birthday of Dr. James Parkinson. So he was a physician that first described the condition back in 1817. So that's a long time. World Parkinson's Day 2026 provides an opportunity to unite patients, caregivers, clinicians, advocates in promoting awareness, improving care, advancing research for Parkinson's disease. So thank you for being a part of this today and helping out with the awareness. And we have a wonderful program for you today. I want a big mahalo to our sponsors. Acadia, Bayada Home Health, Medtronic, Queens Parkinson's Disease Center, Boston Scientific, AbbVie, and St. Francis. So thank you. They're going to be here through the whole event, so please visit them during the breaks. And a couple of house cleaning things. If you don't know where the bathrooms are, just go out the store to the right for both men and women. You probably found the coffee and water over here. Okay. So we have a little trivia to start out with, and we have the prize is the harmonic Parkinson's Project book and a harmonica. So the way this works, just shout it out. First person that is identified will get this, and we have quite a few of these, so you'll have multiple opportunities. All right. So the first trivia question is, what is the name of the popular TV series that features actor Harrison Ford portraying a person with Parkinson's? She had her hand up. Shrinking. Okay. Thank you. At break. Come see me at break. Or you can get it now. Thank you. All right. So I'd like to introduce our president of Hawaii Parkinson's Association, Glenn Higa.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, aloha. You guys are not good this morning. Let's go one more time. Aloha. Aloha. There we go. All right. Welcome to the 2026 Hawaii Parkinson Association Symposium. My name is Glenn Higa. I'm the president of the Hawaii Parkinson Association. I am honored to welcome all of you to the Parkinson Symposium, and honored that all of you have taken time out of your busy day and also braved the weather to join us as we come together to learn, teach, share, and inspire hope for all those affected by Parkinson's. The symposium brings together patients, caregivers, family, friends, healthcare professionals, and the general public from all islands and beyond. Our symposium is growing because Parkinson's is growing. This is the largest venue that we have ever held the symposium in. 225 of you are attending, another 50 volunteers, sponsors, and people who work for HPA. Our symposium is growing because Parkinson's is growing. Yet our registration was full 3 weeks ago. Unfortunately, Parkinson's is becoming more prevalent in Hawaii and around the world. Just last week, the Michael J. Fox Foundation published a report that estimates the cost of direct and indirect medical care in the U.S. that is attributed to Parkinson's disease. In 2024, it is estimated that Parkinson's cost the United States $82 billion per year. Okay. The earlier projections of this number was identified the cost of Parkinson's disease would be $79 billion in 2037. So we're 13 years ahead of schedule and $3 billion above projections. So something needs to be done to reverse this trajectory that we're on. So we need each and every one of you to make your voice heard by our congressional delegation. Tell them to increase funding of Parkinson's research by the National Institute of Health to $600 million a year. Okay. Right now, NIH spends $100 million a year on Parkinson's research. It's not enough. We're getting closer to a cure, but we need the funding to take us there. Also ask your congressional representative or your senators to force the current administration to comply with the national plan to end Parkinson's. So they finally seated the committee last week, or actually yesterday. But it's taken 2 years to get this done, okay, through 2 administrations, okay? So we're behind. Now, whether you're here for the education, to be part of the Parkinson community, or your best friend told you, hey, get free lunch this year, we go. I hope you find something that nourishes both your mind and body. As you continue your journey with Parkinson's, I encourage you to advocate for yourself, ask questions, seek answers, exercise your body and mind, and connect with each other. That may be the most important thing that you do today. So we have a great symposium today for you. We have speakers Dr. Webb Ross, Dr. Michael Braish, and Dr. Laurie Mishley. Thank you for attending the HPA Symposium. Have fun and have a great time.
Okay, so I will be your master of ceremonies today, so I will apologize for the bad dad jokes ahead of time. So what does a ghost call a randomized clinical trial with a placebo? Trick or treatment? Okay, our first topic is Parkinson's research. We are proud and honored to have Dr. Webb Ross present the updated information. Dr. Ross is a neurologist investigator at the Department of Veterans Affairs, affiliated with the Pacific Health and Research Education Institute. He has been involved in clinical trials of symptomatic and potential disease-modifying therapies for Parkinson's disease, and he's a clinical professor at the geriatrics at University of Hawaii John A. Burns School of Medicine. Dr. Ross is a long-term good friend of HPA and the Parkinson's community. So let's give him a nice round of applause.
So I just want to say thank you to HPA for inviting me to give this presentation, and I want to congratulate them. This conference just gets bigger and better every year. It is so much fun to see familiar faces and new faces, and I just want to congratulate you on another great year, and you're going to hear a couple of really outstanding speakers in a few minutes. I'm going to take a little bit of time this morning to talk about research, and I just want to underscore what you just heard from Glenn. It is paramount that we work hard and diligently to try to determine interventions or ways of preventing Parkinson's disease, slowing the progression, and curing it. And the way to do that is through research. And the good news for me is that, as I reviewed what's been happening in research over the last year, there is a lot going on, and there's a lot to be hopeful about. And I could stand up here for the next 2 or 3 hours and talk to you and not run out of information. So what I had to do is I had to go back and cherry pick the things that I thought were promising and interesting, and I'll share those with you today. But I do have a slide at the end that shows you resources of where you can get more information if you're interested. So I have no disclosures. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on environmental risk factors for Parkinson's disease, give a little bit of an update there. And then I'm going to really focus a little bit on emerging treatments. And when I talk about treatments, it's really going to stay focused on disease-modifying treatments. That is, interventions that we can do to slow down the progression or halt the progression of Parkinson's disease. So On to environmental factors. We've known for many, many years now that there are a variety of environmental toxicants or pesticides that are associated with an increased risk of developing Parkinson's disease. And these toxic effects have been recapitulated in animal models of Parkinson's disease. And the chemicals that come up frequently are paraquat, rotenone, and organochlorine pesticides. And I cite this book, The Parkinson's Plan, A New Path to Prevention and Treatment by Drs. Dorsey and Oken, because the first part of that book really gives you a nice background and history of the whole issue of environmental toxicants and higher risk for Parkinson's disease. And it's just really nicely written. And then the second part of the book lays out a plan for how we can avoid these toxicants and what things we can do to slow down the progression of Parkinson's disease. So I wanted to bring the book up. The other important chemical I think that's come along in the last 5 to 10 years is trichloroethylene. And this is a chemical in dry cleaning. And it's been shown that there was a wonderful study that showed that individuals who were served at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina were exposed to trichloroethylene through the water that had leached into the groundwater. And individuals from Camp Lejeune had a higher risk of developing Parkinson's disease in the future. And since then, there have been other studies that have indicated that this is another risk factor for Parkinson's disease. But one of the things that really has come along most recently is the association of air pollution. And there have been studies now in North America, Europe, Asia, that have shown an increased association between air pollution and Parkinson's disease risk. And there are about 3, or actually could be more, but 3 different possible mechanisms. One is the abnormal clumping of alpha-synuclein. And you know, alpha-synuclein is a protein that's found in all of our brains, but there's something that triggers an abnormal deposition of that protein in the form of clumps in the brains, that in particular in nerve cells, that is associated with the process of Parkinson's disease and necessary for a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. And when we think of this clumping of alpha-synuclein, we think of Lewy bodies after the pathologist that first described it many years ago in the brains of people with Parkinson's disease. So it seems that air pollution could cause an increase in this clumping of alpha-synuclein. Another possible mechanism in Parkinson's disease is inflammation, and there are particular kinds of inflammatory cells in the brains of people with Parkinson's disease, and so air pollution may increase that particular kind of inflammation. And then finally, oxidative stress. And you know, as our cells are pumping out energy and doing the work that they do, they're producing waste. And we call that oxidative stress. And our body has ways of getting rid of that waste or those free radicals. But in a stressful situation, there may be an overproduction of those free radicals, or there may be a limited ability of the body to get rid of it. And that is the state that we call oxidative stress. And air pollution and some of these other chemicals probably drive a lot of this oxidative stress and lead to cell loss in people with Parkinson's disease. So the next thing I just want to cover briefly is something that you have been seeing in the news now for several months. And that is ultra-processed foods. And what do I mean what do we mean when we say ultra-processed foods? And what we mean is basically that these are foods that contain things that you don't have in your kitchen. And they are fried, they are cooked in a variety of ways, and then they have additives that are oils for emulsifiers and sweeteners like high fructose, and dyes and other chemicals that increase the longevity of the food, but actually probably carry with it some kind of risk for a variety of conditions, including cardiovascular disease, certain kinds of cancer. And now we're learning that these foods are associated with a higher risk of Parkinson's disease. And in particular, in the last year, there's been a published article from two large prospective studies, the Nurses' Health Study and the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, that have over 40,000 participants between them, followed over 25 years. And those consuming the highest amounts of ultra-processed foods have a much higher likelihood of developing the prodromal features of Parkinson's disease. And the prodromal features are clinical features that occur in people who have Parkinson's disease, but they occurred before the motor symptoms, before we're able to make a clinical diagnosis. So what are those? Things like impaired smell, excessive daytime sleepiness, rapid eye movement, sleep behavior disorder, and constipation, and several others. Major depression is another one. These symptoms can occur years before the movement disorder allows us to make a diagnosis. And so the association of ultra-processed foods with the presence of these prodromal symptoms suggests that ultra-processed foods are a risk factor for Parkinson's disease. So now moving to therapies. As I said, I'm going to be talking about potential therapies to slow down the progression of Parkinson's disease, or a cure, if you will. And there are three things that go into a cure: a way to stop or slow the progression, a way to protect surviving nerve cells, and a way to replace the cells that have already been lost. And there's research on all three of these different methods. And some of the research has been along the lines of exercise, diet, repurposed medications, and cell replacement therapies like stem cell transplants, and then also immunotherapies, including vaccines. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about are repurposed medications or repurposed drugs. So what I mean by repurposing is the use of already approved, FDA-approved medications for new indications such as Parkinson's disease. And just to kind of illustrate this, there was a recent study that was published from Norway. This is an observational study where they looked at a big database of over 14,000 people, and they looked at the association of over 200 medications with their measure of Parkinson's disease progression, that is 8-year mortality. And they found 23 medications that were significantly associated with a reduced Parkinson's disease mortality. That is, it suggests that these medications, or something about taking these medications, may actually have an effect on slowing the course of Parkinson's disease. And I've listed some of these here, some of these medications you'll be familiar with. So medications for gastric reflux like pantoprazole and ranitidine, medications for high blood pressure like losartan, and high cholesterol like atorvastatin, and then non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents like naproxen. So the first thing I want to urge you to do is not to go home and start taking these medications. But what this does is it encourages us to actually explore these medications in clinical trials to see if indeed they might be medications that would slow down the course of Parkinson's disease. So another one of these repurposed medications is one that you're all familiar with, the GLP-1 agonists. And these medications are approved for the treatment of diabetes. Some of them actually are used for weight loss as well. They increase insulin secretion and synthesis, and they promote survival of the cells in the pancreas. And they inhibit cell death, they reduce inflammation, and they reduce oxidative stress. So three of the things that we think are involved in cell loss in Parkinson's disease. And observational studies have shown that diabetics treated with these medications have a 60% lower risk of developing Parkinson's disease in the future. And so that led to the lab where researchers have found that these medications seem to be protective in animal models of Parkinson's disease. So 3 of these have been studied so far. The first one, exenatide, there was a report in 2017. This was a phase 2 trial. And it showed, and it was a treated versus placebo group among people with Parkinson's disease already on dopamine therapy. And there was a stabilization of the Parkinsonian motor symptoms in the treated group. The second one was a phase 2 trial of liraglutide that showed significant improvements in activities of daily living among people with Parkinson's disease on the treatment. And then about 2 years ago, actually this month, lixisenatide showed stabilization of motor symptoms in the treated group compared to significant worsening in the placebo group after 12 months on this therapy. So that led to phase 3 trials. As you know, the early phase trials really are looking at safety of the medication. And the later phase 3 trials, look at efficacy of the medication. So the first trial to look at efficacy in this class of medications was an exenatide trial in the United Kingdom. And unfortunately, it didn't show any difference in progression of motor symptoms between the treated group and the placebo group. And I put this in here because I think it's real important to realize that it may not be the drug. It may be the way the trial was designed. It could be the dose was inappropriate. It could be that we were trying to intervene at the wrong time. So I just don't want to say we should be throwing out medications just because they fail one trial. And so I think you're going to see more of these trials. Another one, repurposed drug, is Ambroxol. And to me, this is a really interesting medication. It's a cough expectorant. It's a cough medicine. It's not available in the United States, but it's been used for years to treat cough. And the link of Ambroxol with Parkinson's disease comes through the knowledge that mutations in this gene called glucocerebrosidase beta 1 are responsible for making this enzyme called glucocerebrosidase lead to a higher risk of developing Parkinson's disease. And glucocerebrosidase is involved in the breakdown and clearance of that protein that I was referring to earlier, the alpha-synuclein, in people with Parkinson's disease. And people with Parkinson's disease have a low level of this enzyme. So this cough medicine, Ambroxol, is a potent enhancer of this enzyme. And so this has led to clinical trials looking to see if perhaps Ambroxol could slow down the progression. And the first one was a phase 2 open proof concept study with 17 people. And they were shown to have high levels of the enzyme, indicating that it was coming out of the brain, as you would want. And the movement symptoms improved. Now, there was no placebo comparison group in this study. There was recently a phase 2 trial completed in Canada, and this was looking at Ambroxol as a treatment for dementia associated with Parkinson's disease. And unfortunately, while they were able to show that there was increased levels of this glucocerebrosidase in the treated group, which is what you want, there was no difference between the treated group and the control group in cognitive outcomes. Again, disappointment, but still, I don't think it's worthy of throwing this medication out. And now there is a phase 3 trial going on in the UK, which is looking at the effectiveness of Ambroxol on Parkinson's disease progression. And we should be able to see results of that in 2029. So I'm not going to say a whole lot about exercise because we have other speakers that are going to cover that very, very well. But I just want to say a couple of things about work that's going on in our community that I think is very, very exciting. And to sort of introduce you to that, we all know that exercise is good for Parkinson's disease. It probably slows down the progression and it may prevent Parkinson's disease. And in addition to that, skill training with exercise seems to be more effective than regular exercise, at least in animal models of Parkinson's disease. And we think that skill training can lead to better connections of Parkinson's disease. So that has led to dance being studied in Parkinson's disease, and a variety of dance forms have been shown to improve balance and gait speed. And so that has led investigators in our community, Dr. Machiko Bruno and her group at Queens, to come up with a hula program for people with Parkinson's disease. And Dr. Bruno has done a wonderful job of bringing together her team at Queens Movement Disorder Center, in addition to the University of Hawaii Center for Native and Pacific Health Disparities Research, as well as people with Parkinson's disease and their caregivers who have experience with hula. And then this organization from New York called Dance for PD that is doing dance therapy for individuals with Parkinson's disease. They have a lot of experience. So they've all come together to design this program to look for potential benefits of hula for people with Parkinson's disease. And they're looking for cognitive benefits, emotional and spiritual well-being, physical and functional benefits, cultural and linguistic enrichment, and social benefits, and also to identify challenges that might occur in teaching hula to a group of people with Parkinson's disease. So they just recently completed a feasibility trial of 11 individuals with this 3-month hula program. You're going to be seeing results of that very soon, and I just think this is a real exciting program. I'm hoping that they'll design more studies in the future, and if you call the Queens Movement Disorder Center, you can maybe get your name on the list for the next phase of this, but I think this is really exciting. And then the next one is our own Kevin Lockett, who has designed the Harmonica Parkinson's Project, and some of you may be participants in this study. We know that speech difficulties occur in over 90% of people with Parkinson's disease, and these include problems with respiration, with volume, with articulation, and with the speech melody, the emotional intonations that we use when we're speaking. So this study was designed to determine the feasibility of developing a harmonica program for people with Parkinson's disease to stabilize and improve their speech. Again, I just think this is brilliant. And Kevin has enrolled 22 subjects, with 12 who underwent the harmonica program initially, and 10 receiving usual speech therapy. And then at the end of the intervention, those individuals who were in the control group were crossed over, and they actually were able to receive the harmonica therapy as well. And then there was testing by our speech and language pathologist, Terry Kennedy, before the onset of the harmonica program and then after, to see the effectiveness. And so the bottom line is that this was very feasible. It was very safe. There are no adverse events, and there were some really encouraging results that I think Kevin will be presenting at the World Parkinson Congress in May. So stay tuned. And then lastly, I just thought this was interesting. While I was working on this presentation, there was an article in the New York Times on March 24th, and I believe it was reprinted in the Honolulu paper the following day, of a program in Buenos Aires, Argentina, that was inspired by a person with Parkinson's disease who danced tango. And so this person organized this tango program to give to people with Parkinson's disease, to give them approaches to movement that they can use in their daily life to provide a social and emotional boost from moving to music. And so learning tango improves their mobility, their gait, and their balance. So the bottom line here is dancing is fun, get into it, you know. So now I'm gonna move to immunotherapy and talk a little bit about immunotherapy. And just as a way of review, I already talked about the abnormal clumping of the protein alpha-synuclein in the brain in the form of Lewy bodies. And this is one of the key pathologic features of Parkinson's disease that a pathologist will look at when they look at the brain. The other one being loss of dopamine-producing nerve cells in the substantia nigra in the brain. So immunotherapy aims to get rid of those toxic clumps of alpha-synuclein and stop the pathologic process in its tracks. So there are really two different kinds of immunotherapy. There's active immunotherapy, and then there's passive. And the active therapy is a vaccine, really. And the vaccines, when they are injected, they provoke the body to form antibodies against this alpha-synuclein, so that the antibodies will break up those clumps and get that alpha-synuclein out of the brain. So there have been early phase trials of 4 different vaccines that have found them to be safe and well tolerated, and also they've been found to generate the appropriate antibodies in the serum, in the blood. So the most promising one of these, the interim results were just reported recently. In fact, it just has a number right now, ACI 7104.056. And this was a phase 2 study that seemed to indicate that there was an increased brain clearance of alpha-synuclein, and then more importantly, the Unified Parkinson's Disease Rating Scale scores, that is the way that we measure severity of motor symptoms in people with Parkinson's disease, they were stable for people who were given the vaccines compared to worsening scores in the group that was on placebo. So I think we're going to see more with these vaccines, and this is something I think that's really exciting. Passive therapies are similar to the active therapies, but these are actually monoclonal antibodies that are injected, and they directly target alpha-synuclein. And there have been early trials, early phase trials, phase 1 and phase 2, of about 6 of these therapies that have demonstrated them all to be safe and very well tolerated. The most studied one of these is prasinezumab. And there was a recent phase 2 trial called the Pasadena study. And while not meeting the primary efficacy measure that they outlined at the beginning of the trial, there were signals of good efficacy in some of the secondary or alternative measures that they use to assess progression. So, and there seemed to be slower progression in those treated versus those on placebo. So that has led to a phase 3 trial, and I just want to bring this up. The Hawaii Pacific Neuroscience here in our community is one of the centers that's participating in this trial. And if you're interested, you can contact them just at Hawaii Pacific Neuroscience. But this is a phase 3 randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled, multi-center study to evaluate the efficacy and safety of intravenous prasinezumab in participants with early-stage Parkinson's disease. And again, this is an efficacy trial, phase 3, and to look to see if this medication slows down Parkinson's disease. And then finally, stem cell therapy. And we've been hearing about stem cells for as long as I think this conference has been going on, but we're starting to see results come to fruition now. And stem cells are unspecialized cells that can divide and change into many different kinds of specialized cells. And of course, the cells that we're interested in are the dopamine-producing nerve cells. So the idea here is that you take stem cells that can be derived from skin or embryos, and you program those cells to develop into nerve cells that produce dopamine, and then you implant those cells into the brains of people with Parkinson's disease. And there have been 2, I think, groundbreaking trials that have published results just last May, not even a year ago. The first of these was the first approved trial in the world. It took place in Japan. They enrolled 7 individuals with Parkinson's disease in a phase 1-2 open trial to look at the safety and efficacy of these dopamine-producing nerve cells that came from what we call pluripotent stem cells that came from skin. And there were no serious adverse events. The transplanted cells were found to produce dopamine, as you would hope, and 5 of the subjects of the 7 showed improved motor function. So I think that this is really exciting news. And then the second one, published at the same date, was a phase 1 open trial in Canada and the United States. They got dopamine-producing nerve cells from human embryos and implanted those in 12 subjects. And brain scans showed that there was survival of the graft and an increase in dopamine production, and that there was improved motor function in the group on the highest cell dose. So I think that that's another really exciting trial that is going to lead to more efficacy trials in the near future. So I just going to kind of briefly review some of the research that's available and encourage you, if you're eligible, and to try to participate in these trials or support them in any way you can. This is the way that we advance our knowledge of Parkinson's disease, and this is the way that we're going to find a way to wipe it out. So Queens, again, has another trial that is looking at the genetics of Parkinson's disease. It's called the GP2, or Global Parkinson's Genetics Program. And the project has the goal of finding more genetic variants that are connected to Parkinson's disease. And while heredity is not the cause in very many people, we know that there is a combination of a genetic predisposition with a particular environmental exposure that may lead to Parkinson's disease in most of us. So the more of these genetic variants that we can find that seem to increase risk for Parkinson's, the better. So again, if you're interested in participating in this, you can contact the Queens Movement Disorder Center. And then the VA is also participating in this same genetic study. Our VA here at the Pacific Islands Veterans Affairs Healthcare System. And again, at the VAPD is a cross-sectional observational study examining genetics of Parkinson's in understudied populations. So for Hawaii, that would be Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders, and Asian Americans. And the idea is to provide DNA, which is the genetic material in our bodies, and clinical data and demographic information to give to the same study that Queens is working on, the GP2 study. So they are now recruiting at the Department of Veterans Affairs. So if you're a veteran and you see the neurologist at the VA and you're interested in, please talk to your neurologist there. So this is just a list of resources. I could stand up here and talk for 3 or 4 hours about things that have been going on in Parkinson's disease and new knowledge and research. And I just think it's an exciting time, and I am very optimistic. So if you're interested, here are some resources. This is not exhaustive, but there's a lot of things on the internet. But to me, these are very reliable and very good places to get really good information. Thank you very much.